Can someone confirm who that number is that got on?
It was 469-826-8953.
Nathan, it's me, Colette.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't hear on the video conference, so I just called in.
Okay, I was just checking. Okay, we're good.
Okay, I think we're good to go. Mr. Greenhill, are you good to go?
Yes, Wendy Davis is just calling me for a donation, so let's really proceed. Yes.
Okay. Okay, all right. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order of the Audit and Finance and Audit Committee meeting for today, October the 28th. And do we have any public comments, Mr. Gates?
None received by my office.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go on to the approval of the minutes from the August 28th meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay, I guess I'll second that. So,
that's by acclamation. I'll say aye. I'm aye.
I'll say aye. Okay,
That's
great.
right. Aye,
Okay,
yalla.
great. Okay, so those have been approved. We'll go ahead and go on to item number 4, which is deliberation on the audit reports. So I think that's you, Mr. Nathan.
Yes, ma'am. We have 3 audit reports we want to discuss today. The first one is the background checks audit. Starting on page 3 of 5 is the background of the audit that says the college district shall obtain criminal history record information on the person the college intends to employ. The college district shall obtain criminal history record information for applicants applying for positions identified by the institution as security sensitive, including but not limited to those responsible for handling currency or having access to a computer terminal, drugs, chemicals, or a master key.
Question. I have a question before you do that. Carol, are you there?
I'm right here.
It says, this is a legal question. The first sentence is very broad. It says, on a person, that looks like every employee to me. Is that not true?
We actually do background checks on every employee. Because among other reasons, every employee has access to a computer terminal.
Okay. So the second sentence is
So
what is that a qualification? I'm just trying to figure it out. Is that a qualification of the first sentence? There are only 450, 200 employees who have to have a criminal investigation.
Well, Nathan, I'm a little confused too, because our normal background check, the databases that are checked include the criminal background databases. Are you saying that these are?
Well, I pulled this strictly from the policy procedure out of DC local. So basically, any individual that applies to the college, whether they're a hire or new hire, needs a criminal history record check.
Correct. So if every employee needs to get that, then what are the 230 employees that you identified?
Those are the 230 employees that we identified as the population that came on board within the audit scope.
Oh, those are new employees within that period of time.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Oh.
I understand it now. That's fine. Okay, thank you.
Okay. The audit objective was to determine if TCC is completing criminal history record checks in accordance with TCC policy procedures. The audit scope covered the period of January 1st of 2020 through June 30th of 2020. We determined TCC usually completed criminal history record checks in accordance with TCC policies and procedures. We identified 230 employees who were required to have a criminal history record check completed during our audit period. We selected a non-statistical judgmental sample of 45 employees from the population of 230 employees. From our sample of 45 employees, we did identify one employee that the Human Resources Department did not complete a criminal history record check as required by TCC policies and procedures. We did discuss this issue with Susan and the Executive Director of Human Resources. They did say it was an oversight, which was the result of an employee being viewed as active versus previously terminated. The situation was further complicated by the candidate failing to authorize and subsequently initiate the background as requested from all candidates via email. So we did discuss it with HR on page 4 or 5. They are going to revise their policies and procedures. They will add, as number 1 stated, add a field in the hiring proposal to indicate if the candidates are current, former, or new employees to TCC before proceeding with the background check. And the HR department also will amend the language on the onboarding instructions to clarify that all new hires and rehires to TCC must undergo a background check. The clarification will ensure that former employees initiate the background check process as well. And internal audit also recommended that since we only looked at that period of time, January through June, we also recommend that HR goes back and review their files just to make sure that folks did get criminal history record checks were completed as required by policy. Any questions or comments on that one?
Mr. Greenhill, any other questions?
No?
Okay. All right. I do have a couple of quick questions for you, and just clarifications. So in what you just read, it sounds like there's an email that's sent to the employee and they have to acknowledge that before it triggers a background check, or am I not reading that correctly?
Yes, ma'am. Like what happens is when an applicant applies, part of the HR process is that they have to, when I say the applicant has to give permission to let the HR department perform a background check.
Okay.
In this specific case, this individual was a rehire, so they did initially do a background check when the initial individual was working for TCC. Then they came back and did the rehire in one of the campuses at TCC, and they didn't go back and do a background check. And obviously that individual left, and they tried to initiate it after I discovered it during the audit. And of course, that individual said, well, I left and didn't give consent to get the audit done completed. So yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. And the only other question I had is 45 is that a random number, or does it have to be a percentage of the total sample?
No, ma'am. That was just my percentage of the population. It was a judgment call from internal audit.
Okay.
Yes,
okay. All right. Any other discussion on that?
No, ma'am.
All right. Okay. Do we need to do anything at this point, or are you going to go through the next one?
No, ma'am. I'm going to go to the next one.
All
Board
right.
of Trustees.
Sure.
Yes,
thank you.
The second audit is what's required, and it's issued in draft form because I haven't issued the final yet, because per our auditing standards, we do have to discuss the draft report with the auditee. In this case, it happens to be the Board of Trustees, and I will issue the final report today. But as required by our internal audit charter, we are required to audit the Board of Trustees expenses every year. On page 3 of the report, the Board of Trustees expense report gives the background. As I stated before, the internal audit department is required by our audit charter to audit the Board of Trustees expenses. That was our audit objective. The audit scope covered fiscal year 2020, which is the period of September 1st, 2019 through August 31st of 2020. We did do a 100% review, as we do every year, of the Board of Trustees expenses to ensure compliance with district policies and procedures. We did determine the board expense total $36,370 during our audit period. The breakdown of that, $25,338 was in travel expenses and $11,032 was in operating expenses. And based upon reviewing the documentation and the policy procedures, we didn't identify any issues. Any questions or comments on the Board of Trustees expenses? Audit.
Mr. Greenhill, any questions? Okay.
Nope.
The only question I have is, what is considered a transaction?
A transaction is anything, let's say you go do, one of the board members stays at a hotel, so that's a transaction.
Okay.
So let's say they stay at the Hilton and it's $300, so that would be considered a transaction.
That is one transaction, and each night would be a group of transactions?
Not necessarily, because they could stay 5 nights, and then the total of that 5 nights might be $700. So that would be one transaction as it processes through and you receive an invoice. Did that make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Are you ready to move on to the third report?
Unless Mr. Greenhill has no questions, I think we're good.
I'm ready.
Thank you.
The third report is our annual report, which is required by the Texas State Auditor's Office. It's the fiscal year 2020 internal audit annual report. Again, the Texas State Auditor's Office mandate the format of the report. It's broken up into 7 sections. Section 1 is compliance with the Texas Government Code, specifically Section 2102.015, posting of the internal audit plan, internal audit annual report, and other information on our TCC website. So obviously we have an annual audit plan that we approve. When I say we, the Finance and Audit Committee approves, as well as the annual report, which we're discussing now. And once it gets approved by that governing body, then obviously internal audit posts it on TCC's website to ensure compliance with that requirement. Section 2 of the annual report is our internal audit and audit plan for fiscal year 2020. It just recaps of what the audit plan was approved and what was issued. And if you go to specifically on page 4, it lays out any summary of the weaknesses, deficiencies, wrongdoings, or other concerns raised by the audit plan or annual report. And specifically, this wording comes from, like I said, the Texas State Auditor's Office, which we all use based upon our auditing standards, which is either the government auditing standards or the Institute of Internal Auditors. So that's really what defines the deficiencies, which is internal control weakness. So basically what we did identify, which we just discussed from the previous audit, from the background checks, was the criminal history record check. And obviously it lays out our recommendation that implements the implementation status of management taking action. So they plan to take action around December the 1st. So right now it's marked incomplete. And when they do take action, the implementation status will change to complete. Section 3 talks about consulting services and non-audit services. Obviously, at internal audit, we play a big role on consulting advisory services. So it just lets the Texas State auditors know the guidance that we provide to TCC individuals throughout the year. Section 4 on page 5 of 7 is our peer review. Just lets the Texas State auditors know that internal audit has completed a peer review on the date it was completed. Section 5 is the internal audit plan for fiscal year 2021, which was approved a couple months ago in August of 2020. Which was approved August of 2020, which lays out the approved annual plan for fiscal year 2021, which is on page 5 and 6, which was discussed back in August. Section 6 is the external audit services procured. Internal audit did not contract with any external auditing company during fiscal year 2020. However, we do disclose that TCC does have a contract with Weaver to conduct an audit on TCC comprehensive annual financial report. And Section 7 just lays out TCC's process on reporting suspected fraud and abuse, which basically lays out we have a website, we have a process and procedures on our website where any individual, whether it be student or staff, can go out and report fraud, waste, and abuse, not only internally to the internal audit department, but also to the Texas State Auditor's Office as well. So, and that is the fiscal year 2020 internal audit annual report. Any questions or comments?
Remind me again, in the audit plan for 2021, what fixed assets means. I know what a fixed asset is, but what are you investigating? Just remind me.
Yes, sir. Basically what it is the fixed asset what we reviewed a couple of years ago was computers. It happened to be at that time. So we'll take a look at the total population, whether it be inventory, computers, so things that are marked as a fixed asset is deemed as fixed asset based on the criteria of inventory. And we looked at computers last time. We identified some computers that weren't properly accounted for. So we're going to we plan to go back and look, whether it be computers, vehicles, once we reach it and do the planning phase of it, we're planning to look at, see what's the high risk assets that are more likely either misappropriated or not tagged properly. And that's the area we plan to focus on the fixed assets.
How about computers that we have been giving out to students because of the coronavirus? How's that? How do you ensure you keep those computers?
Yes, sir. So part of that process is when we go and when we start the planning phase of the audit, we'll talk to the inventory department, identify how many computers, what's the process, what's the population, when did they last time they reviewed the computers, and then from there we'll select a sample of those inventory just to make sure that the process is working and they're properly accounted for.
Okay. We had some problems in the past and had had a hearing in regard to review of faculty evaluations. Tell me about that.
Yes, sir. The faculty evaluation is based on, I just completed investigations several months ago.
Yes, you
and
did.
there was an individual that did not complete the faculty evaluations as required. So that's based on that investigation, obviously provided a high, which resulted in a high risk when we did our risk assessment this year, that we believe we should go in and take a look at faculty evaluation to make sure if that one individual doing who's saying there's might be more individuals that's not doing it as well.
Teresa?
Those are excellent points. Good questions, Mr. Greenhill. The only question I have, besides the ones he's already addressed, was we have our external quality assurance review. When will be the next one that will be conducted?
For the internal audit department?
Yes, the external
Yes, ma'am.
quality assurance.
We do it based on our auditing standards once every 5 years. So we'll have another one completed. We'll have to wait till this 5th year cycle. So at the completion of fiscal year 2021, we'll have another one completed. So I have to eventually go out and select somebody to do it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
One more question from me. Teresa or anybody on this call, is there any bumps that have occurred since our last meeting that we should consider to be put on the list that we have here? Something that's anybody's sniffing anything that we should be looking at? I'm not suggesting that we do, but just that's a question I ask in each one of these meetings to make sure that we're, if there are any sniffings going on that we need to look at.
One of the areas that we're taking a look at in a general way that may require some further review is the notion of loading and faculty loading, which then results in then payment and overload payment and such. Usually those are one-offs, issues that we may find here and there.
Yeah.
But I've asked more of an in-depth look to see if there are prevalent issues, which then could warrant further look. But right now we're not there.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question, Mr. Greenhill. You've done this a while. That's good. Anyone else have any suggestions or recommendations or concerns?
Madam Chair, I don't. And I make a motion that we recommend this report to the board at the next meeting.
Okay. Then I guess if you recommend that, do I have to second anything?
I'm making a motion. I'm sorry.
Okay. Then I guess I'll have to second that.
Yes. And, okay. I think the next meeting you'll make a report.
Yes.
That we did this.
That we went over these things. Absolutely.
So.
Okay. Or is there anything else, Nathan, that you have for us?
No, ma'am.
Okay. On the agenda, are we going to have a closed session at all, Carol? Is there a need for a closed session?
No, ma'am, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Mr. Greenhill or anyone, and have any consideration and action on anything else before we close?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we're good to go. Okay. Thank you, Nathan.
Everybody.
Thank you, Colette. We appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Got a
Thank
pretty
Thank
good-
you all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.